On June 16, 2009, a man's body was found on a deserted beach in Ireland. What seemed like an ordinary story turned into one of the most mysterious cases in forensic history when police began their investigation. Today, I'll tell you about a story that has puzzled both investigators and mystery enthusiasts for more than a decade. The story begins in the small town of Sligo in northwestern Ireland. This town has a population of only 20,000 people. Nevertheless, it was in this small town that a story occurred that has been intriguing the minds of countless mystery and enigma enthusiasts for many years. It all started early in the morning on June 16, 2009, when dedicated athlete Brian Kinsella was preparing for an important triathlon competition. His training regimen included a comprehensive routine of cycling, running, and swimming. At 6:20 a.m., Brian was doing his usual morning run along the scenic coastline of Ross's Point. That memorable morning, he was accompanied by his father Arthur, who as always was acting as his son's personal trainer. While Brian was vigorously performing his exercises on the beach, Arthur was taking a leisurely walk along the shoreline. Despite the light mist that blanketed the coast, his attention was drawn to an unusual object. From a distance, it looked like a mannequin or large toy washed up by the sea, but as Arthur approached, he realized with horror how wrong he was. Before him lay a human body. Shocked by the discovery, he called his son over, and together, following Christian tradition, they said a prayer for the deceased's soul before reporting the incident to law enforcement. Sergeant Terry McMahon, arriving at the scene, found the body of a man estimated to be between 45 and 60 years old. The deceased was tall and slim, with typical European features and gray hair. What particularly caught the sergeant's attention was the fact that there were no footprints in the sand around the body, except for those left by the people who discovered it. The examination of the body revealed no signs of violence, no cuts, bullet wounds, bruises, or other injuries that might suggest foul play. It appeared as though the body had simply been washed ashore by the tide. The deceased was wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and nearby investigators found his other belongings: a black leather jacket, pants of the same color, a belt, socks, and shoes. It was at this stage of the investigation that the sergeant encountered the first oddity. All manufacturer labels had been meticulously removed from every piece of clothing, making it impossible to determine their origin. Although this detail seemed unusual, McMahon initially didn't place much significance on it. Among the deceased's personal effects, there were also no identifying documents, no ID, no driver's license, nothing at all. While it wasn't possible to identify the deceased at that point, the sergeant was fairly certain this was someone from the local community. Such incidents, though rare, had occurred before. Someone would go swimming while intoxicated at night and drown. McMahon was confident that relatives would soon come forward and the man's identity would be established. However, the usual scenario didn't play out. As time passed, no one could identify the drowned man, and no one reported a missing person matching his description. The police had to piece together the final days, hours, and minutes of the unknown man's life bit by bit. At that moment, the law enforcement officers of the small Irish town had no idea what a series of mysterious and inexplicable events lay ahead of them. The man whose body was found on the beach was first captured on surveillance cameras on June 12, 4 days before his death, in the Irish city of Derry. Between 2:30 p.m. and 4 p.m., the unknown man spent time at the bus station. From there, he took a scheduled bus to Sligo, arriving at the local bus terminal at exactly 6:28 p.m. Upon arrival, he hailed a taxi, asking the driver to take him to a budget hotel. The first hotel where the taxi driver brought him had no vacancies, so they headed to another, the Sligo City Hotel. Around 7 in the evening, the mysterious guest appeared in the hotel lobby carrying 2 pieces of luggage. He booked a room for 3 nights at a rate of €65 per night. In all financial transactions, including the payment for his stay, he used only cash, completely avoiding bank cards. Although guest registration required identification documents, the front desk clerk, breaking established protocols, recorded the information based on the guest's verbal statement, as he identified himself as Peter Bergmann. He provided his home address as Einstadters 15, Vienna, Austria, 4472. Subsequent investigation by detectives revealed this address to be fictitious. However, the hotel staff noted that his speech, though in English, had a distinctive German accent, which indirectly supported his possible connection to Austria. As it turned out later, the name he provided was also false. The investigation showed that no person named Peter Bergmann matching the stranger's description existed in any databases. Even more intriguing was the fact that no one under this name had crossed the Irish border during the specified period. The first documented evidence of his presence in the country was the surveillance camera footage from the bus station in Derry. How he entered Ireland, and specifically Derry, remained an unsolved mystery. The stranger spent the evening of his arrival in his hotel room. The next morning, June 13th, at exactly 8:30 a.m., he came down for breakfast, and around 11 a.m. left the hotel. That same day, he visited the Sligo post office, where he purchased 8 airmail stamps. It's believed that during his stay he sent several letters, though their recipients and contents remained unknown. Investigators were particularly intrigued by a mysterious purple plastic bag, with which the man made 13 exits from the hotel during his stay. The most puzzling aspect of the bag story was a peculiar pattern. Cameras consistently recorded the man leaving the hotel with a full bag, but each time he returned, it appeared empty. Perhaps the empty bag was simply folded and tucked into his pocket. This suggested that the stranger was methodically disposing of his belongings somewhere in town. Despite the abundance of surveillance cameras in Sligo that captured the stranger during his walks, none of them recorded the moment he disposed of the purple bag's contents. It seemed as though the man was perfectly aware of the blind spots in the city's surveillance system. Given his clearly non-local origin, such knowledge would have required careful advance planning. If you enjoyed this video, please support my channel by subscribing and hit the bell icon to never miss my next video. On June 13th, the second day of his stay in town, a notable incident occurred that deserves special attention. During routine room cleaning, an interesting situation unfolded. A housekeeper, following standard procedure, knocked on the guest's door. Receiving no response, she used her master key. To her surprise, she found the man inside, and his initial reaction to the unexpected appearance of staff was notably apprehensive. Only after some time did his expression become more relaxed, suggesting he might have been worried about being discovered. Following this incident, the guest requested that his room be completely excluded from cleaning services for the duration of his stay. The next day, June 14th, following his usual routine, he left the hotel with the ever-present purple bag. After hailing a taxi, he asked the driver about the location of a secluded beach suitable for swimming. The driver recommended Ross's Point Beach. At the guest's request, the taxi driver took him to the specified location. The man asked him to wait and spent about 10 minutes carefully studying the beach area. After his inspection, he returned to the taxi and asked to be taken back to town, inquiring about public transportation options to the beach along the way. He spent the remainder of the day walking around town before returning to the hotel. On June 16th, his scheduled checkout day, the man approached the front desk requesting an extension of his stay by a few hours, explaining he had an evening train departure. After this, he again went into town with his usual purple bag. He finally left the hotel at 1 p.m., carrying 2 bags and the plastic bag. Subsequent surveillance footage captured his presence at the bus station. By that time, he had only 1 bag and the plastic bag left, having disposed of the second bag on his way to the station. At the station, the stranger visited the local cafe, where he ordered coffee and a sandwich. During his stay there, he pulled some kind of note from his pocket, studied its contents carefully, then tore it into tiny pieces and threw it in the trash. He then purchased a one-way ticket to Ross's Point Beach and departed there by bus. Local residents later recalled seeing him walking along the shoreline. The last encounter with him occurred around 11 p.m., when a young local resident exchanged greetings with him while passing by. The events of the following day are partially known. The body of the man who called himself Peter Bergmann was discovered on the beach. Although he appeared quite fit for his age, the autopsy results revealed a very different picture. Medical examination showed that he had suffered several heart attacks in the past. The deceased was found to have advanced prostate cancer with bone metastases. Such a condition typically causes severe pain, yet specialists found no traces of painkillers in his system, which is highly unusual for patients with terminal cancer. He had aspirin with him, but apparently hadn't used it. Additionally, it was discovered that he was missing one kidney, the result of a previous removal surgery. Most notably, the initial drowning theory wasn't confirmed, although it seemed most likely under the circumstances. The forensic examination found no typical signs of drowning in seawater. According to the expert's conclusion, death resulted from cardiac arrest, though the specific cause of the heart attack couldn't be determined. This mysterious man covered his tracks so thoroughly that he probably never expected his body to be found. Apparently, he was counting on ocean currents to carry his remains out to sea, but fate had other plans. The tide brought the body back to shore. This enigmatic story raises many questions that remain unanswered to this day. Who was this man really? Why did he methodically dispose of his belongings? What brought him to Sligo in his final days? And most importantly, why was he so desperate to maintain his anonymity? All these questions remain unanswered, leaving room for various theories. Some suggest he might have been a fugitive running from justice. Others propose that he could have been involved in espionage. There's even a hypothesis that he might have been a descendant of a Nazi war criminal. Such people often do try to conceal their true identity. However, another explanation seems more plausible, although this is certainly just a speculation. Taking into account his terminal cancer diagnosis, it's reasonable to assume he was aware of his imminent end. Such situations typically become an extremely difficult ordeal for the loved ones of a terminally ill person. It's quite possible, driven by a desire to shield his family from the suffering and distress associated with watching him fade away, made the decision to disappear from their lives. Nevertheless, the true motives behind his actions remained a mystery. The man known as Peter Bergmann was laid to rest in Sligo Cemetery, where he was buried 5 months after his body was discovered. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you didn't, feel free to give it a dislike. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.